How much did you pay for your first house?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go away. Go away.
Oh.
Go away.
Does she mind answering?
Go away.
How much did you pay for your first house?
None of your business.
What?
See, the baby boomers don't like being asked the hard questions, right? And it's not like he's in his face. He's just right there. He doesn't have to answer the question. He can just politely say, go away. He's not touching him. He's not harassing him in any way. He's asking a simple question, right? He's not spitting in here. He's not doing anything.
You know, boomers have to be the most corrupted generation in history. They know that they ruined the generations after them and have no regrets. You have to be a heartless, absolute bastard to live like the boomers, to have teamed up with the elites, to gain wealth and power and leave nothing for the next generation. The boomers lived such a good life, sometimes I wonder if they made a deal with Satan himself at some point in their life, right? Oh, most of them, at least 50% of them. It makes me wonder, do they know what is happening and don't care? Or are they really this ignorant and oblivious to everything that's happening with the next generation after them? Guys, it's your boy Andy Matrix. I'm back on Angry Guys YouTube channel. Make sure to follow me on Angry Matrix Gaming. I talk about anime, gaming, Japanese culture. If you're into any of those things, make sure to click the link in the description and follow me. And make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment below to help push this video up in the algorithm. Guys, Angry Guy's uploading his videos to Rumble, so make sure to check him out on Rumble because he's got, some content that's not allowed on YouTube, and he's uploading it over there on Rumble. Okay, and so click the link in the description to follow Angry Guy on Rumble. And also, dudes, the economy is in shambles. There's millions of layoffs since 2024 all the way till now. There's millions of layoffs, and many people that get laid off cannot find another job, so that they have to tend for themselves and find ways to make money, which is why Angry Guy created the Content Creator Academy, where he's going to teach you how to build an audience and create a digital product to start generating an income and say goodbye to the 9 to 5. So click the link in the description and check out Angry Guy's Content Creator Academy. And now, let's get on with the show. So today we're going to be reacting to a pretty cool YouTuber. I've been following this guy for like the last maybe 2-3 years. He's grown, he's been pretty popular on YouTube. He's got 11,000 subscribers. He's deconstructing narcissism. You've probably seen him. He started off talking about his narcissistic parents, but now he's going to be talking about narcissistic baby boomers. Because why the heck not? Baby boomers, the most special generation that ever existed on this planet. And they are denying, how much they pay for their homes. They are denying that they had it so good back in the day, So let's go ahead and take a look at deconstructing narcissism and his criticism on baby boomers. And I'm going to give my own feedback. So let's hit it.
All right, guys. So got a good one for you today. You know how baby boomers love to tell us that they had it so much harder than we did. A lot of them back in the day, that we're just complaining. We just need to save better. We just need to budget better. Cut back on those lattes. Cut back on that avocado toast that we're eating. Right, that we're eating too much avocado toast. Right, especially Gen Z and millennials. We're eating too much of that shit. We need to cut back. Cut back on electronics. Everything. We're spending too much on everything. Right. So the baby boomers, in this video, are getting they're asked how much they bought their house for back in the day, and their responses are, well, let's just say less than friendly for the most part. So let's get into this video, and I'd love to hear your thoughts by the end of it.
How much did y'all pay for y'all's first house?
$37,000 for it.
$1,000?
But that was in 1980.
$37,000. Keep in mind, the value of the dollar was significantly higher in 1980 compared to it is now. Since 1913, I just did a check, it's lost 96% of its value. 96 to 97% actually of its value since the early 1900s. So
Yeah, so I actually did I did some quick research and I looked up, the inflation. I used an inflation calculator. So $37,000 in the 1980s. With inflation, that same price today will be $140,000, right? With inflation. So that's actually not bad. That is actually not bad. Now, also keep in mind that the baby boomers, they were actually making decent money. Like many of them, and I mean many of them did not even need a second job. Back then, you could work one job and live very comfortably, right? You could live very comfortably. And if you had a business, whew, even better. And some of these baby boomers in the 1980s were making $100,000 working at some company. $100,000 as a baby boomer. Okay, that's why many of these baby boomers, they will go out and then they would buy like multiple houses, because if you're making $80,000 and you can buy a house for 37,000, many of them, they bought 2-3 houses. It was profit, hand over fist, profit, straight up profit. Okay, so and they really couldn't complain. They really could not complain, bro. They had it good. Like things were really good back then. Some of them some of them complain about inflation, but the inflation back then to the inflation now, it's no, you cannot compare the inflation of the 1980s, 1970s to the inflation that we have now in 2025. In this decade, the 2020s, which is a shit decade, man. The 2020s is a shit decade. So they know very well that they had it good back then. They know it, but they pretend not to.
Put that into perspective. And actually, I just did further research. Since the 1800s, $1 was actually worth around $25. So all according to ChatGTP, but something to think about. Our dollar has lost significant amounts of value, even since the 80s.
80? How much did you pay for your first house?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go away. Go away.
Next question.
Go away.
Does she mind answering?
Go away.
How much did you pay for your first house?
None of your business.
What?
See, the baby boomers don't like being asked the hard questions, right? And it's not like he's in his face. He's just right there. He doesn't have to answer the question. He can just politely say, go away. He's not touching him. He's not harassing him in any way. He's asking a simple question.
The baby boomers, they are in such denial. They are in such denial. The reason why they don't like to answer these quote unquote difficult questions. I mean, it's actually a pretty decent question. How much did you buy your house for in the 1980s? Right? It was a pretty easy question, and all he had, and if he did not want to answer it, he could have just told the gentleman, "Hey, listen, I don't want to answer this question. Please leave me alone." Right? But instead, he yelled, and the fact that he yelled, it signifies something deep in there. You know what I mean? It signifies that something that he doesn't want to acknowledge. Because they know that they've done something wrong. They know that they've done something wrong. Let me tell you a story, an experience I had with a baby boomer. So I went to Dave and Buster's, right? I went to Dave and Buster's, and I sat down to eat something. I sat down at the bar, and I had a burger, and I ordered, I think, a margarita or something like that, and I ordered 2 margaritas, right? I ordered 2 margaritas, and the dude that was serving me, the first dude that was serving me was like a younger dude, but then like the second person I knew it was a baby boomer. I knew it was a baby boomer. Okay, I just knew it. I knew it, but by the way they were talking to me, by the way they were behaving, I just knew, like, this guy's a baby boomer. You just kind of get that vibe when you first meet him. Of course, he had the gray hair, so I knew he was an older gentleman. He had to be 60, 70 years old, right? Baby boomer. And so I asked for the bill. And I looked at the bill, and I was like, hey, you guys charged me 3 times. I ordered 2 drinks, not 3. And then he looked at it and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We'll go ahead and fix it." So he went back to quote unquote refund me the money to my credit card. And then he came back and he was like, "All right, it's done." And I'm like, and then I go online and I check my bank account. And I'm like, "Hey, bro, it doesn't look like I don't see any action here. Did you actually refunded it?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's there." And he gave me like a receipt. He's like, "Yeah, it's there. You just gotta wait." Right? And then when I'm driving home, and then I check my credit card account again. No, I didn't get no damn refund for that third drink. They charged me for an extra drink, that asshole. You know? And I think, and now that I look back, the dude was way too lazy. Either he did not know how to do a refund on the machine, or he was too lazy to do it. See, a lot of these boomers, they don't want to learn. Okay, they don't want to learn modern technology. They don't want to learn how to use computers. They don't want to learn how to use a lot of modern technology. They don't want to learn how to use it. They want to continue in their old ways. You know, so it's a lot of laziness, a lot of just a lot of stubbornness. Like the baby boomers are also very, very, very stubborn people. You know, and they think it's okay to do these kinds of things, and I don't know, it's like they feel as though they can get away with anything and that people should just forget about it and keep moving until of course they are the victim. Then it's a big deal.
Right? He's not spitting in here. He's not doing anything of the sort to harass him. But he doesn't like this question. And I think the reason he doesn't like this question is he doesn't want to give the young people any credit. He's just a nasty old man that doesn't want to give young people any credit. He doesn't want to tell the truth.
I do not answer to cold calls.
What does that even mean? A cold call? It's a basic interview question. How much did you buy your house for? That's the only thing he's asking. I mean, for these baby boomers to get so upset over something so ridiculous, it's absurd. It's crazy.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to call the police unless you leave me alone. Do you understand?
How much?
How are you going to call the police on somebody? For what? He didn't even do anything. For what? Just walk away. You don't even have to answer the question. Just walk away. Unbelievable. Now watch this next lady.
Did you pay for your first house?
Who the hell are you? And why are you
Completely
being
offended.
so intrusive? That's a rude question. It's none of your business.
How is that a rude question? You're crazy. Asking a simple question.
Have you noticed how these boomers are being absolutely rude and nasty? Like, instead of saying no, I don't want to answer the question and walking away, no, they're like getting on the dude's face and like telling him like, oh, like being absolutely rude and mean bad, because the guy himself, he's just asking a simple question. He's not like getting like in their space in any way. If a YouTuber comes up to you, all you gotta say is sorry, man. That's I don't want to say. But like it kind of shows you, like what's happening there subconsciously, like the way that they choose to answer. Like the boomers, they're nasty people. They are nasty people. And I used to think that many many people online, they were exaggerating about the boomers, about the boomer generation. But the more research I do, it's true. It's absolutely true. The more research, the more you dig, the more research you do find that a lot of that it's true what people were saying about these boomers. The way that they behave, the way that they act, and kicking their kids out at 18. The boomers were doing that at first. It's crazy. But guys, before we continue, listen, the economy is in shambles. A lot of people are getting laid off. There's been millions of layoffs. I believe we've reached about 5 million layoffs since 2024. It's getting worse and worse and worse out there. People are having a hard time finding another job. So, anybody that loses a job, they're going to be spending a long time looking for a job, applying to, submitting 2,000 applications, right? It is scary out there, and people are being pushed to the brink. People have to find ways to make money without a job, which is kind of scary. And that's why the angry guy created the Content Creator Academy to teach people how to build an audience and create a digital product. to start earning an income online and start to say goodbye to the 9 to 5 guys. Yeah, so if you want to learn to do what Angry Guys does, build an audience online, create a digital product, and generate an income for yourself, check out the Content Creator Academy. If you join today, you'll get a free guide, right? And so click the link in the description and check out the Content Creator Academy. Now, let's go ahead and move on.
You don't even have to tell them the real number. You could just lie. Or you could just walk away. Jeez, like, it's a simple question.
How much did y'all pay for y'all's first house?
I think it was. No, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
Jeez, this lady, it's like, why is it such a big secret with these baby boomers? Like, why? We're not going to do that. She says, nope, we're not going to do that. The guy's like, okay. Meanwhile, she tells him anyway, but it's like, what are these boomers hiding? Why is it such a secret?
Your first house?
No, we're not going to.
We don't want to participate.
How much did you pay for your first house?
Oh, he doesn't tell him. My bad. I thought he did.
65,000.
No way, that cheap.
Mm-hmm.
What year?
Oh Lord, no, 20, 25.
At least this guy is, like I said, not all baby boomers are bad. At least this guy is reasonable, right? And he didn't have to say anything, but at least this guy was more reasonable.
I agree. There's the last two, they're actually more reasonable because at least the lady, she just said, "Oh, we're not going to answer." Like she wasn't absolutely rude. And the other guy says 65,000. Now that 65,000, that number, it's for the 1980s, that number is pretty high. Now because the previous person said 37,000. Now this one says 65,000. So I'm guessing he bought like a slightly bigger house. A bigger house, it costs a little more, but still, 65,000 to the amount of money boomers were making back then. That is a steal. That is a steal, I tell you. Yeah, man. So the boomers had it good, man. Boomers had it good.
Right? He's willing to share. He's not rude.
Up 30 years ago. So what's up?
Oh, what's up? How much did you pay for your first house?
Oh, goodness gracious. That's a long, long time ago. $268.
Wait.
Yes.
That cheap?
Yes.
$268? $268? No way, man. No way, man. No. She has to be lying. She has to be lying. $268? I mean, she did say a long, long time ago. I'm guessing it was probably before the 1980s. And is probably a really old house. But even so, even if it was a really old house, let's say from the 1950s or something, maybe the house lost a lot of value and she had to spend more money to fix it. But the fact that she bought it for $268, that's nuts. I mean, and then she probably spent maybe like $5,000 fixing the house, which, oh my God, that's nothing. That's nothing. She bought it for $268, spent $5,000 to fix the thing. That's nothing. Oh my God, that is nuts, bro. That is nuts. That is crazy. That is crazy. And here us millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Beta, we're here looking at the housing market like $400,000, $500,000, $1 million. If you're in California, you're looking at $1 million. On the cheap side for a cheap house, that's $500,000, $500,000. This is crazy. That is nuts, bro. That is nuts. $268. $268 for a house? That was more than a deal. I mean, that house had to be pretty beat up. The house had to be pretty beat up. And she's an old lady. I'm guessing she bought it with her husband. Right? She bought it with her husband. They bought it for $268. And then her and her husband spent, $5,000, fixed it up real nice, put a new kitchen, new floors, right? But that's nothing. That's like freaking nothing, bro. compared to years later, they like after they were done fixing the house, like they must have been like their paychecks, they would pocket all their paychecks. Wow, man. Wow. It's no wonder people are able to save so much money back then. People are able to save so much money back then. If you could quit a job and then look and get another job a week later, oh man. Yo, that's crazy, bro. That is nuts.
I don't even. Does anybody have any recollection? Like, they would have to ask their grandmother. They really would. They would have to ask their grandmother. Like, I can't even think of a time. It would have to be back in like the 40s or 30s, right? I mean, when the hell was any house? How much did she say? I have to rewind that back because I'm equally as shocked. What did she say? $268. Can you or even your grandma, you know, remember when a house was that cheap? $268. When the hell was the house ever $268? That's just crazy. I can't believe she said that.
$268.
$268. $268. Like, can you even? I can't even imagine a house costing $268, and we're not even talking about a fixer upper or a house that you have to pour hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about a house here. A house that's bought at $268, bought, paid for, and that you could live in. That looks decent. That is insane.
Wait,
Yes.
that cheap?
Yes. I remember that.
All right, guys, that was the end of this video. Man, some of these baby boomers really need to get that stick out of their ass. I mean, I don't understand why this is such a personal question. Like, why are you getting offended by something that's just so it's by such a nonchalant question. But, for the baby boomers in this video that didn't get offended, that kept it at least real with us and told us, how much they bought their houses for. Um, you guys are the real ones. So, I don't know. I don't know about that $268 house though. That's awfully cheap. If anybody has a grandma or anybody that that's really old that they've asked, maybe another baby boomer relative or anybody in your family, extended family that knows somebody that's bought houses for 200 something dollars or around that cheap, let me know because that's just unheard of to me.
I honestly can't believe it either. I honestly cannot believe it either. And that's just, that's just, let's say, low income people. Low income people probably had to wait longer to buy a house, right? But then imagine the people that came from that came from, a suburban family, a middle class family. You're a teenager, you start working, and then you could buy a house in your early 20s. Now you could buy a house in your early 20s, start working, find a wife, get married, And that's why so many of them were able to have a lot of kids back then. They were able to afford all that nonsense. Right now is December. Okay, it's December. I remember last year in 2024, a lot of people watched the movie Home Alone for the first time. And a lot of people were wondering how the heck did the Home Alone kid, right, the little blonde kid, I forgot his name. How he bought he filled up like a cart, like a little grocery cart with like just $20, milk, bread, cheese, eggs, $20. Almost filled up his cart, right? And people are also asking, like, the kid's father. Like he had a really, really nice house in like 7, 8 people lived in it. Because I remember the kid, he was living with his brothers, his cousins, and I think his grandmother, grandfather, and like 1 or 2 uncles. All of them living in one house. All of them living in one house. I want you to remember this. I want you to think about this. All of them living in one house. How did the kid's father was able to afford that house and house the entire family? That is nuts. That is crazy. And the secret is that people were making a lot of money while at the same time, houses and everything the prices were pretty low. You can buy a car for $5,000-$10,000. You can buy a house for $30,000, $50,000. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, back in I think it was 2010, 2011, no, 2010 or 2012. I think one of those years. One of my uncles bought a house for $80,000. One of my uncles bought a house for $80,000. And his mortgage payment was like $600. I think it was $600. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's in 2010. That's in the 2010s. Imagine that same house that my uncle bought, all the way back to the 2000s, all the way back to the 1990s, the 1980s. That same house could have probably cost like $30,000, $40,000, half the price. So again, a lot of jobs, good income, and low prices. They were living good. They were living real good. But now we're going to be looking at more examples of the baby boomers and, how much they were spending back in the day.
Baby boomers, born between 1946 and 1964, we grew up in a world rebuilding after war, full of hope and change. Our childhood was riding bikes, playing outside until dark, and knowing every neighbor by name. Cars had chrome bumpers and real character. Clothes, bell-bottoms, leather jackets, and dresses that defined an era. Supermarkets were simple, but felt exciting. And going to the movies was a true event. Fast food chains were just starting to pop up, and everyone wanted to try them. TV had only a few channels, yet families gathered around it like it was the heart of the home. Phones had cords, and if you called a friend, you prayed they were home. That's the baby boomer generation, a time of growth, nostalgia, and unforgettable memories.
Good advice or bad advice?
Money can't buy happiness.
That's a great down payment, though.
I'd say it's bad advice because teaching people that if you don't get rich, you're not going to be happy.
I totally agree with you. Money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy happiness.
And if you're not healthy, forget it.
Give me some money and I'll hire somebody to bring me some health.
It's the love of money that can't buy happiness.
Yeah.
Things in life are free.
Yeah.
But of course, if you have money to afford health care, education, housing.
You started off doing a song. The best things in life are free. But if you
Don't get him singing.
So that podcast of all of those old people you saw there, that is actually a baby boomer podcast where baby boomers, retired baby boomers, they gather around and talk about, retirement stuff. Like most, retirement stuff. And in that episode, they were talking about, finances, money. And as you can see, the baby boomers, they're very materialistic, okay? They are very materialistic. I mean, that was it. That one guy said, "Oh, if I had money, I can hire somebody to bring me good health," right? And look, money is important. Money, we need money in this society, quote unquote, in this society, we need money to survive. But the baby boomers, that's mostly what they cared about. They cared about materialistic stuff, money. They really, and you can talk to Gen X. Gen X will tell you that baby boomers didn't really care about their kids,
Baby boomers aren't like us. So we're all cautious. We'll Google stuff. Be like, oh, what is it? Is that okay for us? Is that fine? It's only got a 3.8 rating. Is that good? Is that good? Baby boomers aren't like that. They're like, eat that, burn that, use that for cladding. All right. Job done. And I always do like baby boomer jokes too, because even if they're not in the room, you can kind of feel them, just like... Well, we worked very hard to get where we wanted, and we respected our elders. And just have any baby boomers before you complain about me on Talkback Radio, or what I like to call old people's Twitter. I'm not saying our generation is any better, okay? I'm not. But we are the first generation of men throughout history who think it's a good idea to grow a beard but shave your pubes. That's a weird priority list, isn't it? That is. I always love hearing baby boomers complain, so, you know, when we throw stuff out and they're always... Like, you know, let's be honest, every baby boomer has bought pretty much every house in this country. Then they're just like, you want it? You gotta pay for it. And anytime we complain about it, they always say the same thing. They always say the same thing. Yeah, when we bought houses, 21% interest rate on your home loan. Try that out for size, and it's having 21% interest on your home loan. I don't give a shit about your 21% interest rate when your house costs you £5 and a bag of grain, all right?
I don't know how else to make it clear to the boomer generation that you had it easier with housing and college in the 80s compared to today. So I want to tell you all a little story, and I want you to picture 1980, this couple, Bob and Barb, who are 25 years old. Barb has a bachelor's degree that she paid for while bartending during the summer, and they're thinking about buying a house. There's a 14% interest rate back in 1980, which is scary, but with a 20% down payment, they're still only paying 25% of their income towards housing. If that scares them, they have the option to rent for only 14% to get their lives together, to invest, to build their life. But if you fast forward to 2023 and you look at millennials Mike and Mary, they're making $81,000 a year. They also worked in the summer, but to pay off Mary's bachelor's degree, they still owe $45,000, and it's $500 a month. So they're already spending 7% of their income on Mary's degree. But if they want to buy a house for $400,000 and they somehow come up with $80,000 as a down payment, that payment is still going to be 35% of their income. And if that's outrageous or ridiculous or scares them, their other option is they can rent. But the average rent is $2,000. So that is 29% of their income. So Mike and Mary, the millennials, have two options. They either spend 35% on a house or 29% on rent, plus they're carrying the 7% of college debt. So just those two things alone shows you the difference between the boomers and the millennials growing up.
You're wasting your breath, your mind, and your every cell in your body is being wasted trying to explain this to boomers. Look, the problem with the boomers is stubbornness, right? They lived in such a good time, right? They live in such a good time, such a good economy, that they don't really care. They don't want to learn. You understand? They do not want to learn. They don't care. Okay? All they know is their generation, the time that they grew up in, and that's it. That's it. They don't care about anything else. That's why they don't listen to young people. The young people, they just tell them, oh, they reiterate the same thing. The same thing. Just, oh, walk into a place, shake somebody's hands, and you'll get a job. Not knowing that we live in a completely different place, completely different world now from the one that they used to live in, you know?
I blame our generation, you know. I think the boomers, the baby boomers, are the ones that sold out. Yeah. I mean, they had all this idealism and, you know, progressive ideas and faith in equality and so on. But then they got very distracted by, you know, I don't know, yoga and self-care and buying country houses and, you know, basically living it up. You know, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, that generation was living high on the hog. We were all making good money. We had power, like those of us who were in academia. You know, we were kind of controlling the discourse. And there was just this false sense of, you know, of everything's okay. But meanwhile, we weren't actually working on the things that we had identified as the most important, you know, to keep on struggling with. Where people say, okay, boomer. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I've heard it, yeah.
I think it means something like, you guys have had your day and had your say, and just shut up. But it's partly, basically what it is the recognition of this failure that I'm talking about.
It's so wild to me how many boomer parents are just so mean. I was raised by boomers. They were called the me generation for a very good reason. The entitlement and delusion and venom is real. So I also was raised by boomers. They were very early boomers, born 1947. And what I experienced was profound emotional neglect. Absolutely nothing regarding the love and care for a child. The attitude that my parents had was I was a pest. They did not like me, and they just thought all I have to do is feed this child and house her, and that's it. And I, P.S., was not a difficult child. I was a very shy, withdrawn child. I was an easy kid. I didn't have any behavioral problems or outbursts. I, really stayed to myself. And as a kid, I did not know other boomer parents, so I thought it was something wrong with me. And I internalized all of their hatred as something wrong with me. Now, when I married a man much older than me, 17 years older. He was a boomer. So, and yeah, I mean, was there some trauma stuff there? Of course, because of a dad who never paid any attention and loved me. I already deconstructed that with a therapist. But I got to speak behind the scene because since he was a boomer, I hung out, of course I had to, in his world, and I heard other boomer parents talking. And the larger percentage, not all boomer parents, it's definitely not all boomer parents, but the larger percentage seem to really hate their children. The way that they talk about their own children, and sometimes even they're loving to their children. You see them interact with their children, and then, I'm sitting across the table from them at dinner, and they're saying things that I'm like, what the, I'm like internally reeling. There were some, and they would always stick out in my mind, and I always kind of held a special spot for them where, they said lovely things about their kids, how they're so proud of who they've become. They're great people, they're great parents, but the fact that they stick out in my mind as something rare is really, really sad. I deeply believe that if the boomer generation had to go back and get the option of whether or not they procreate, I think a very large percentage of them would not.
I saw a little thing earlier that made me reflect on my time in customer-facing tech management, and it was something that made me remember how boomers throw fits, and I mean like actual toddler tantrums, when they have to sort of exist in a system that they don't control, right? And what I mean by that, if you've ever worked customer service, you have had an experience where a boomer calls in, and everybody can do this, but no one does this to the degree that a baby boomer does, right? They call in, and you have to verify their information, and they immediately start throwing tantrums because you have to ask them their name and their address or an account number, right? They immediately start throwing tantrums when they say, I need you to fix XYZ, and you ask them to describe XYZ, and they start questioning your intelligence or being racist. And I'll give you an example. This one came up a lot. This was super common. When I worked in premium computer tech support, basically pay $15 a month, call your computer tech guy. My computer doesn't work, right? This is, if you've worked in tech support, you know what that means. You know it means 1,000 things. My computer doesn't work. All right, Mr. So-and-so, when you say your computer doesn't work, can you help me understand what's happening when you feel like that's the case? Are you stupid? Are you a fucking moron? What do you mean you don't understand what that means? I thought I paid blah, 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 and you guys were supposed to be geniuses. To find out that my computer doesn't work is code for, in some cases, there's no power to the tower, there's no power to the monitor, the keyboard's unresponsive, the mouse died. It could mean that Chrome is not launching. It could mean when Chrome launches, it won't pull up a website. It means that Comcast is out on the box itself, and so when you ask them to sort of be agents of their own support, there is a full-blown meltdown at the fact that you can't just David Blaine magic hands your way directly to a resolution, and the fact that they might have to be involved in that process. Again, you know this experience if you've had it. And there's no one else that does this like a baby boomer does. There's no one else that throws a full-blown tantrum. And I can remember, as example, billion years ago when I was on the phones and would be like, well, Mr. So-and-so, when you say your computer doesn't work, that can mean different things to different people. Tell me at what point in the process it's breaking down. Even just in good faith, trying to be kind, trying to be pleasant, the way that you will be met with the most severe vitriol because they have to further be involved in the process. And someone in my comments once said, and the more I thought about this, I truly believe this is the case. It's the way once a baby boomer is met with something they don't understand, that violent reaction is their way of handling the fact that there's something that they don't know and they don't get to bullshit their way out of it. A lot of people, when confronted with something they don't know, that is their go-to, right? Oh, well, I don't know, or, well, I think it might be blah, blah, blah. And humans have a really sort of interesting dynamic with managing when we find out we're wrong. And we all handle it very, very different ways. But there's no one to the same degree that when they get confronted with the fact that they don't know something, immediately becomes verbally abusive like a baby boomer. And I just think it is the craziest phenomena.
Yes, and I've seen this many times. The baby boomers, they cannot admit that they are wrong. They cannot admit that they are wrong because they want control. Because they're used to having control over everything in their life, right? Everything in their life. And I'm starting to think one of the reasons why they hated their kids so much is because you can't really control people. You can't really control people. I think that's why one of the reasons why they couldn't control. Why they didn't like their kids, right? But overall, yeah, I've met many baby boomers from many ethnicities, by the way, many ethnicities that, when it's something that's like out of their control, they tend to just throw a tantrum. I remember growing up. In college, I was part of this program, and I remember there was this dude. It was an older gentleman, and there were times where he just started screaming, like, "What the freak?" And I'm not saying that all boomers are like that, obviously, but from what I remember, man, I've met boomers that they are as bad as they say they are. They are as bad as many people say they are. And there's a reason why, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, we're blaming a lot of the problems in our society on them. It's because of greed. They're the greediest, the absolute greediest generation. What was that quote? I think, I don't know if it was from The Wolf of Wall Street. I think about the old Wall Street movie that says, greed is good, right? I think that's a motto from the baby boomers. I would not be surprised if they're the ones that coined that term. Greed is good. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure to comment below, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for future notifications. Guys, it's your boy, Matrix. Godspeed.